Well, South Africa may have strong constitutional protection for LGBTQIA plus rights, but activists say many people still face exclusion, unequal treatment, and a lack of support in daily life. A new inclusion benchmark, however, shows progress in workplace policies. Let's talk about that further now. I'm joined by Teveshan Kuni-Erasmus, SA LGBT plus Management Forum spokesperson. That is a mouthful, but good morning and welcome, Teveshan.
Good morning, Rebecca.
All right, so let's talk about what is happening in the workplace. We talk about the queer community in various other aspects. What are we seeing? What are the challenges that they're still facing in the workplace in the year 2026? Because we're seen as a rather progressive country when it comes to this,
yes,
but there are still issues.
There are. You know, the world has changed a lot. This is the fourth benchmark that we've done. And what we're seeing now with Gen Zs entering the marketplace, that the dynamics of what used to happen and what needs to happen have shifted dramatically. The workplace is still considered a very core place to someone's heart, because that's where you earn your income.
And spend most of your life,
spend most of your life.
Yeah.
And if you can't be your true self, if the organization that you're working in doesn't fully support you and your journey, that becomes problematic. And we are seeing that the number of affected employees has dramatically increased with Gen Z inclusion.
If you are able to, just give me some examples, because you say when you're not allowed to be yourself. Obviously, in media, we're a little more, chilled and relaxed.
Yes.
So it does. In what environments? Are there specific environments we're seeing this happening where, people aren't able to be themselves? What do we actually mean by that?
So the large companies that have participated in our index give us an example of best practice. So they've got policies in place, they've got employee resource groups, they've got sometimes e-learning modules that people can access. Smaller companies don't always, and may be ambitious and try to emulate that. But what we like to do is use the report to create peer pressure. But the lived experience of somebody may be completely different to sometimes what companies are trying to do, because they may have policies, they may have things like e-learning. But if your line manager isn't trained in who you are as a person, it makes it quite difficult. If these programs that the companies have don't have budgets, it's quite difficult to execute things.
So are we talking about things like, I know the issue of bathrooms and the use of bathrooms and gender and identity and all that. Are we looking at that? Are we looking at somebody who identifies as, a male, who identifies as a woman and wants to come to work in a dress?
Absolutely.
Just to put it as a plain and simple example, that's what I'm looking for. Are we looking at that still not being allowed, frowned upon? There are rules against that? What's happening out there?
I think most companies don't know how to address it. Most companies aren't always sure why it's necessary. Most companies always think that it's a minority employee of one or two. What we're trying to educate the South African workplace in, both with our report and by using peer pressure from that report, is yes, it's around the lived experience of the employee. 24/7, 365. Can you access bathroom facilities? What is your leave situation like? If you'd like to go on a surrogacy journey. What is the if you identify as gender non-conforming, and if you dress that way, what is your organization's view to coming to work as your full self? You could be phenomenal at your job, but the perception of you as a person could be significantly shifted if you had to be your authentic self.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are rules in workplaces, even for us as well. I mean, I couldn't come here in my shorts and T-shirt and do this interview with you, but I'm assuming that, and in certain corporate environments, a suit is required, that there is a dress code. So I'm assuming that's where the lines get a bit blurred as well in terms of dress codes and conduct. Because
if I think about my workplace, I quite often have to be in a business type attire. But if my gender identity and how I physically presented didn't correspond, how would it be taken up if I went to work in a business dress with pearl earrings? And I think that's where colleagues who dress that way want to have the freedom to dress that way. But more importantly, companies don't really know how to navigate that. There are a lot of companies doing great work learning how to do that and creating very safe spaces, but that doesn't exist quite often for the majority of South Africans. And
that's what I was going to ask you. Is it that we lack, is it due to ignorance, a lack of understanding, maybe the fear of the unknown, or are we just seeing blatant discrimination, or a combination of both?
Quite often we see companies that mean well and don't know how. Especially large employers. They're constantly speaking to us around give us a playbook on how to do this, which we did. And then we said to them about what we're also going to do is going to, in return, measure how well everyone's doing in that lived experience. People always spoke about corporates and Pride Month washing. People always speak about what are companies doing beyond just kind of taking your company logo and turning it into a rainbow logo.
Yeah.
What we're looking at is everything underneath that. So how are you supported in terms of your journey, from a graduate to an intern, an experienced hire, someone who's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
If you identify as gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, what is your lived experience? And that's what we're trying to shine a light on and give playback so the South African people can understand what's going on in our workplaces.
And more about that lived experience. I mean, if they are, like we say, we spend majority of our lives at work, most of those who work full-time, and they're there for most of the time. Surely, in terms of the lived experience, this must have a massive impact on their mental health. It
can, because if you're using part of your mental health to create distance between you and your other colleagues because you feel like you can't you can't be your full self, that's mental health, mental wellness impact. And that you're using some of that mental energy to not fully engage. You could be phenomenal at what you do. You could be a market leader, but there's still a part of you that isn't, that is still being held back.
Yeah.
What we see is
you're being made to feel less than.
Less than.
Yeah.
Companies that create an environment where it's less of a problem or no problem at all, quite often see high financial returns. The workplace is more integrated. The chance of somebody leaving that job reduces significantly. Yeah. Employee retention of your performing talent is far higher. Especially with Gen Z, it's important because we're seeing the workforce now increasingly get to over 15% of workforces that identify as LGBTQIA+ because of Gen Zs.
Well, and that's the thing, is what you've been saying. And just to wrap it up for us, I mean, you're saying it has an impact on them, but ultimately it's going to have an impact on the company, because like you said earlier, you could have a very brilliant person, but because they're not allowed to be themselves, they're going to leave and move on to somewhere else that's going to take them, and there goes your brilliant mind behind certain projects.
And importantly, we forget that customers are a part of the community as well.
Absolutely.
And we're also looking at how companies are dealing with the transition from looking outward to looking inward to looking outward.
Yeah.
And that's equally important.
Okay, well, I wish you all the luck with the fight, and you have, support from most, I would think, majority of South Africans as well. We're waking up to the realities of it. Thanks very much, and good luck with going forward with raising that awareness. That's Teveshan Kuni-Erasmus joining us here. And it is the weekend edition of the South African Morning. Thanks so much for your time. Sport coming up in just a moment.